We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone. It is a pleasure to welcome back to this program David Dayen, writer from just about every outlet there is online, and also author of Chain of Title, probably the most important book, I think, on the on the mortgage meltdown of 2008, the fraud that was rife in that industry. David Dayen, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you as always for your kind words.
All right. Well, look, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on broadly in the news, but before we do, I want to start with, because you've written a couple of pieces. Well, let's start with Aflac, and then we'll just work our way into, what we're seeing from different businesses in regard to how they're spending their tax cuts. And then maybe we'll work our way into the immigration stuff. But Aflac.
Aflac.
Yeah, great commercials. Turns out basically a criminal enterprise.
Well, it's funny because we didn't figure out to use this concept, but it really is, in reality, the milkshake duck concept. If you know the meme online, milkshake duck. Hey, look at this beautiful duck that everybody loves. Oh, it turns out it's horrible.
Oh, is it vomit?
That's
is that
what's
what happens?
Going on.
Does the duck vomit a
What's
milkshake?
That?
What happens? I don't get the milkshake duck.
Oh, you don't know milkshake duck?
No.
Milkshake duck is a Twitter meme where, hey, look at this delightful duck. Oh, this duck has been accused of sexual harassment.
Oh, no.
Everybody loves a duck, but no, this is horrible. The idea that something cute then disappoints you. So maybe your listeners know.
No, there's no doubt in my
that.
mind
Anyway.
that I'm the only one who's not aware of the milkshake duck. So, all right. So,
but yes. So here's what's going on. So a source contacted me about he is an ex-employee at Aflac, which is a voluntary insurance company, life insurance, not just life insurance, but accident insurance. It's supplemental insurance that sits on top of your health insurance. And he presented to me a series of allegations and a copious amount of evidence that really impacts almost all levels of the company. It's whether it's against employees, fraud against employees, fraud against customers, fraud against shareholders. And Aflac has so far categorically denied all of this, but the evidence is quite compelling. And so we started a series that we're calling Behind the Duck at The Intercept. And the first installment of it came yesterday, and it really focuses on the work experience, which, is similar, although more egregious, I would say, to a lot of sort of commission-based sales businesses in the United States, where in this case, the employees are not employees of the company. They are 1099 sales associates who work on 100% commission, get no salary. They are given no real leads or support from Aflac in terms of how to acquire business. They're in fact told to, look up their friends and family and see if they, at their employer, have contacts that they can use to acquire business.
Can I just say that to me is that's a big red flag to me.
It's like Cutco knives or Amway,
yes.
or, it's a multi-level marketing scheme.
Right.
Especially because the average Aflac employee sales associate, this entry-level position, lasts less than a year, earns less than $10,000, and leaves the business. And when they leave the business before a year, all of those meager amounts of accounts that they've written go back to the company, and then they just churn in new recruits. So it's almost that the employees are being picked or the recruits are coming in for their contact. And then once those have been exhausted, then the company reaps the benefits of that, and the employee sort of washes out. That seems to be the model here. They are recruited with these very big promises about six-figure salaries. There's this thing called a 10-year income example that it has been presented to recruits that says in the first year you're going to make $125,000. And by the 10th year, you're going to make $250,000. And the reality is that a vanishingly small number of sales associates make that kind of money. It would be based, they in fact revised this after the fact, after they were sort of presented with these allegations. But even what they revised to was a number that 0.1% of all sales associates across the company have ever attained in the course of a calendar year.
Well, I have to say, the part about the bringing the contacts in, that's the way that we do it around here. We hire producers, get their friends to subscribe to the podcast, then we let them go, and then get new producers in, and that's the way we build an audience.
And by the way, it works, and that's why you're a Fortune 500 company just like Aflac.
I mean, continue on with what you're talking about. I mean, I'm just sitting here just sort of like amazed that it's taken this long, right? I mean, Aflac has been around for a long time.
Been around for a long time, and for some reason people have sort of just endured with this. The sales associates pay for everything because they're not employees. They have to pay for licensing and training. They have to pay for their desk rent, essentially, in the offices where they have to go to work. They pay for travel and expenses. None of that is reimbursed because they're independent contractors. However, the company treats them as if they're employees. They have a hierarchy, a boss. They have mandatory meetings and conference calls that they have to attend. There are open enrollment sessions where they have to attend and do work on behalf of Aflac. When they make cold calls, they have to say, "I'm from Aflac." But they are paid in such a way that they are independent contractors. And this gets into the thing that you were talking about with respect to these tax bill announcements or post-tax bill announcements. Aflac is one of those companies. They announced that they would make additional contributions to employee 401ks, which, sounds good, until you realize that 90% of Aflac's workforce, including the entire sales workforce, are 1099 independent contractors and don't have a 401k because they're not employees.
Basically, so we're going to up the 401ks of our C-suite because that's what it sort of sounds like.
Senior executives.
They are.
Well, I tell a story in this article about a lady who is a current employee whose mother called her and said, "Hey, I just saw your CEO on television talking about this increase to the 401k. Isn't that wonderful?" And the woman said, "Mom, I'm a 1099 employee. I don't get any of that." And the mom, who was snookered, said, "Those sons of bitches."
Right.
So this is and believe me, this is a small part of the voluminous amount of allegations against this company. It is not limited to this sales structure, these promises in recruitment, and this misclassification. There's a lot going on here, and this is not going to stop.
And of course, because there are lawsuits about this, and Aflac executives themselves have not informed shareholders, which you're not supposed to do.
Yes.
I mean, you're supposed to inform them of...
Aflac has not, for over a year, they have known about these allegations since December 10th, 2016. They have known about it. They have not in any way disclosed this to shareholders. They have, in fact, made changes based on the allegations without explanation, including changes to their recruiting process, and have not disclosed that. And there's another point in the story where I mentioned that the president of Aflac, who is a guy named Paul Amos II, who is the grandson of the founder and the son of the current CEO, and was clearly a third-generation person who only ever worked at Aflac, was groomed to take over the company. A month after he was reelected to the board, in June of last year, he abruptly resigns to join a private equity firm in Columbus, Georgia, where Aflac is based. And then 4 days later, he sells off 222,000 shares, all of his stock options, even though he knew of the allegations because they were directly sent to him. And as well as other senior management.
I would suggest it wasn't even though. I would suggest that it was because he knew of the allegations, right? I mean, this guy wanted to get his money out while the getting out was good.
Well, it certainly appears that way, and so that's a whole other part of this thing, and it really doesn't stop there as far as material misrepresentations to investors and potential insider trading. So that's going to be an additional thing that we're going to look at and write about.
How long has this been ongoing? I mean, has all these practices, was there a time where the company changed and they started doing this type? And like I say, we're talking about one narrow slice, but was there a time?
I have been in touch with Aflac sales associates, former district managers, and current district managers, former regional sales managers, who've been with the company 10, 15, I think the longest one was 16 years. No one has said there's been any kind of shift. This is kind of how this business has always worked. And that's how several sales, particularly in the insurance industry, is how several of these businesses kind of work. Aflac might be more egregious in some levels. I would actually say so. But this is more common than you think. And it's almost like their franchise. They're all they give to these sales associates are the name Aflac, which has cachet. But they're kind of franchisees without the franchise, right? So they have to. They aren't given really anything in terms of how to get sales, except for this thing called Sales Genie, which is just a phone book. And they're kind of just set off on their own. And it seems that Aflac knows that most of these people will fail. There's a document internally called the Rule of 24 that says out of 24 recruits, only 4 of them are going to end up being keepers. And this is in an internal document to sales coordinators. It says, the other 20 are going to wash out within a year, and we're just going to keep recruiting them and keep recruiting them and keep recruiting them. Clearly, that's at odds with what they say in their recruiting materials. And there's a video that says there's a lot of money to be made at Aflac and things like that. So I think this is probably more normal than abnormal in terms of sales-based industries, particularly the insurance industry. So, but some of the things that are going to come out in the course of this series, I would say, are not normal and
not typical,
and are far less typical in terms of what's going to be alleged. So as I said, this is the tip of the iceberg.
Wow. Well, will people keep an eye out for the behind the duck? Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos